Is working memory related to consciousness? A few years ago, I would have shied away from that as being a philosophical swamp or minefield. But in recent years, I've become more convinced that it's actually a tractable question, and that consciousness is a way in which evolution has equipped us with a tool for pulling together information and allowing us to reflect on it and use it in order to plan for the future. And a system that does that essentially has considerable demands for working memory. So what about the, if you like, the conscious awareness aspect of consciousness? My feeling is that the episodic buffer provides a hypothesis for what might be involved here. I think the buffer allows information to be combined, bound together from many sources. It's within a system that can stand above it and reflect it, and perhaps even reflect on the reflection. So I think of consciousness as a biological function, a function that we're starting to understand, and I think it's one area in which neuroimaging has already proved very fruitful. Because part of the problem with talking about consciousness is that, of course, how do you know about anyone else's consciousness? How do you decide whether they're right or not? And I think what neuroimaging does is to give another independent channel. So let me give a very recent example that's maybe not even published yet. And it concerns visual imagery. It's been known for at least 100 years that people differ markedly in whether they think they've got visual imagery or not. So Sir Francis Galton, in the late 19th century, wrote to all his friends and asked them to form an image of their breakfast table and to rate it for how vivid it was. And some said it was just as though I'm seeing it there, and others said I've no image at all. And yet, if you look at the performance on, say, visual memory tasks of people who say they've got good imagery and people who say they've none at all, you find no difference, with a possible slight advantage to the people who don't have imagery. So what's the answer? My feeling was that the people were probably having the same experiences, but not in fact reporting them in the same way. But some neuroimaging evidence suggests that I was wrong. And this is a sort of preliminary report, and I describe it as a way in which one might use neuroimaging to look at consciousness. This was to take people who said they had vivid visual imagery and people who said they didn't, and look at what was going on in their brains. And the vivid visual images tended to have activity in the areas that were related to vision and imagery, and the others not. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the memory is based on that, but the way in which it's displayed is different. And that, in a sense, allows one to start to make progress on a very old and intractable problem. So, yes, I think working memory is involved in consciousness. I think the episodic buffer in particular, and the central executive in the control of consciousness, in allowing us to stand back and reflect on ourselves rather than simply experiencing. Whether I'm right, who knows, but I have a fair amount of confidence that we will continue to make progress in this area in the not too distant future.